The maker of OxyContin, Purdue Pharma, has a deal to settle lawsuits with 24 states and thousands of cities and other plaintiffs. The suits allege the drug giant pressured doctors to prescribe an excessive amount of painkillers and misled doctors and patients about the overdose and addiction risks. And in the settlement, Purdue Pharma doesn't admit any wrongdoing, and the company has since filed for bankruptcy since agreeing to the settlement. Adam Pinsker explains why a lot of people affected by the deadly opioid epidemic are balking at the deal.
10 years ago, Greenwood resident John McCullough went to a doctor after suffering a back injury and was prescribed Percocet. Pretty soon, he was hooked on the pills.
I was essentially just taking handfuls of it at a time, and I had already lied to get it in the first place. I was faking my pain and my pain level, and it wasn't really hard to continue lying.
By the time his doctor cut him off from pain pills, it was too late. John was already addicted, so he started using heroin to get his fix.
It's the last thing I thought of when I went to bed, and it was the first thing I thought of when I got up in the morning.
That's how McCullough and thousands of other Hoosiers spiraled down the path of addiction, fueling the state's opioid crisis.
When pain treatment is successful, it stays successful.
For decades, Purdue Pharma encouraged doctors to prescribe an array of painkillers, marketing them as drugs to eliminate pain with no risk of addiction. Those marketing techniques became the foundation for a multi-state lawsuit against Purdue, claiming the pharmaceutical company is responsible for starting the opioid crisis. Earlier this month, Purdue agreed to a $10 billion settlement to end the lawsuits, but it's unclear how that money will benefit people and communities that are struggling. State Representative Matt Pierce is worried those dollars could suffer the same fate as the tobacco settlement money received during the 1990s.
That money came in, was supposed to be used for tobacco cessation programs, for prevention programs, and it was a little bit for a couple years, and then it started getting siphoned away every time you had a recession or money got a little tight.
At least 26 states have rejected the Purdue settlement, but Indiana is not one of those. Attorney General Curtis Hill says he supports the settlement, even though it's not clear how much money Indiana will get from it.
There's no amount of money that's going to compensate the loss of someone that you love. And that's a struggle. I lost my own son.
Director and founder of Overdose Lifeline, Justin Phillips, says Purdue Pharma and other pharmaceutical companies have changed the culture in which doctors and patients deal with pain, and it may be hard to change it back.
We made pain a vital sign, which means that you can measure pain the way you measure blood pressure. All of these things went into play, and the pharmaceutical companies led physicians to believe this pain medication is the solution.
Phillips says in addition to the lawsuits, more needs to be done to prevent the pharmaceutical industry from influencing doctors.
If there's evidence to show that they knew that these drugs were addictive, and they chose to hide that evidence, then yes, I do believe that there should be some consequences for those actions.
McCullough lives a clean life now and holds down a full-time job as a plumber, but he says Purdue Pharma's settlement money isn't enough to make amends with victims like himself.
I'd be doing a lot better if the people that are responsible for all of this would be held accountable. And I think that the only way to do that is criminal charges.
In the last 20 years, more than 200,000 people have died from prescription drug overdoses. Another 200,000 have died from heroin or fentanyl overdoses. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Adam Pinsker.